What began as a quiet afternoon at Windsor spiraled into a terrifying realization. Prince William thought he was witnessing a harmless family exchange, but behind Prince Andrew's charming demeanor lurked a calculated strategy. It wasn't about reconciliation, it was about access. And at the center of it all, Princess Charlotte. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The gathering was meant to be informal, a rare moment of ease within the ever-watchful walls of the palace. William stood at a distance, sipping tea, watching his daughter giggle at something Prince Andrew had just said. The sound of her laughter should have brought comfort. Instead, it lodged like a thorn in William's chest. There was something off, something about Andrew's attentiveness. The precision of his questions cloaked in playfulness, the way his eyes lingered too long not in warmth, but calculation. William narrowed his gaze, unable to put his finger on it, but certain it wasn't innocent. Charlotte, bright and uninhibited, answered Andrew's gentle inquiries about her school life, interests, and royal responsibilities, with the candor only a child could possess. But William knew this wasn't a grandfather figure catching up. This was something else. The way Andrew mirrored her responses, subtly steering the conversation back to legacy, public role and media, wasn't lost on him. The charm was too practiced, the curiosity too specific. This wasn't bonding, it was testing boundaries. What disturbed William even more was Andrew's demeanor afterward. He leaned back, smiling not at Charlotte but past her, toward the wall, as if lost in a vision of something yet to be. William's heart tightened. That smile wasn't affection, it was satisfaction, it was victory. And that's when the whispers he had dismissed began to echo louder. Aides had murmured recently that Andrew was feeling the itch again, seeking relevance, floating ideas about re-engagement through charitable mentorships and youth guidance roles. William had brushed them off, but now, watching his daughter interact with a man once exiled from the public eye, his blood ran cold. He wanted to step in, interrupt the conversation, create a distraction, take Charlotte away, but royal protocol gripped him like a chain. He had to be careful. Too much visible tension, and the media would feast on it. Too little, and the damage would be irreversible. His role as a father now clashed violently with his role as a prince, and in that moment, William felt the crushing weight of both. How do you protect your child when danger wears a familiar face and speaks in velvet tones? He left the gathering with his arm firmly around Charlotte's shoulder, a smile painted for the cameras but eyes filled with fury. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he stayed awake, revisiting every word, every glance, every silence. Something was brewing beneath the surface, and William knew he could no longer wait for it to reveal itself. He had to act. Because this wasn't just about public image, it was about the safety of his daughter. It was about stopping something that had already started to spread. As William begins to dig deeper, he's about to uncover a carefully veiled network that leads straight to the heart of the royal corridors, and what he finds next sends chills through the palace. Royal aides had long suspected Andrew of stirring behind closed doors, but no one imagined his ambitions would extend toward the next generation. Now, a string of unexplained movements, secretive meetings, and hushed conversations begins to unravel a darker ambition. It began with a whisper. A name passed from one aide to another in hushed tones: Charlotte. A senior staff member, long loyal to William, approached discreetly, speaking with unease in their voice. Prince Andrew, they said, had been making quiet inquiries, not about his own standing, nor about the ceremonial roles he'd once clung to, but about Charlotte, specifically her education, her engagements, and her future place within the monarchy. He had requested briefings, meetings, invitations to events where she might be present. On paper, it looked like concern from an uncle, but beneath that, William sensed a gathering storm. Andrew wasn't watching from the sidelines. He was maneuvering. Soon after, reports emerged of Andrew hosting private dinners at an estate rarely discussed in official briefings. Those in attendance? A mix of former royal advisors, legacy strategists, and shockingly, Ex-staff members once involved in youth influence initiatives programs quietly disbanded years ago after public scrutiny. Some had once been responsible for shaping public perception of royal heirs. Others had backgrounds in legacy branding. And they were all back, not by coincidence, not by chance, but by invitation. Their purpose was becoming dangerously clear. Then came the discovery that shattered William's last trace of doubt. A confidential file marked Legacy Reinstatement was found accidentally in a stack of archival materials, its cover harmless, but the contents deeply unsettling. Pages outlined theoretical succession influence tactics. A chart compared public favorability data between Charlotte and other young royals. There were margin notes referencing press angles, potential patronage targets, and most disturbingly project re-entry via Charlotte. It was no longer theory, it was a plan. Andrew was building a backdoor into relevance, and he was using William's daughter to do it. The emotional betrayal stung deeper than any political slight. This wasn't just about the monarchy, it was about family. William had long tried to keep the fissures in the royal structure free from affecting his children. He believed that shielding them from the past would allow them to forge their own futures. But now, that past had come for Charlotte with cold precision. A man stripped of public favor was attempting to resurrect his image through the next generation, and he wasn't asking for permission. Within palace walls, tension tightened. Should Andrew be monitored more closely? Was this desperation or something more dangerous? A select few council members met behind closed doors, weighing options that could fracture the family further. No one wanted a second public scandal, but no one could ignore the signs anymore. Andrew wasn't operating in the open, but the footprints were clear, and they led directly to the heart of the institution. But this campaign wasn't just a solo mission. What William uncovers next would reveal a web of influence stretching beyond Andrew himself. Just as William begins taking protective measures, he uncovers something far worse. A tutor recommended for Charlotte had direct ties to Andrew's personal foundation. The quiet plot to embed influence had already breached the gates. William had been operating under the assumption that he was still one step ahead. After the disturbing discoveries regarding Andrew's inquiries and backroom meetings, new layers of precaution had been placed around Charlotte's education and exposure. But all it took was one document, one scheduled appointment in the upcoming royal education itinerary to send everything into a tailspin. A name stood out on the list of potential tutors, someone neither William nor Catherine had personally vetted. That alone was enough to raise concern, but what followed confirmed a horrifying truth. This tutor, packaged with polished credentials and glowing recommendations, had once worked directly under one of Andrew's former advisors, an individual long suspected of orchestrating PR strategies for disgraced figures seeking redemption through the young royals. It was no coincidence. It was a tactical placement. Determined to understand the full scope, William ordered a silent investigation. What came back was chilling. A series of internal emails exchanged between this tutor and an unnamed third-party source revealed carefully phrased discussions about shaping perspective, nurturing independence from tradition, and, most disturbingly, introducing adaptive legacy values to Charlotte. It wasn't just about education, it was psychological, subtle, a framework designed to distance her from traditional guidance and gently nudge her into seeing her role through a lens that aligned with Andrew's distorted vision of royal reclamation. Charlotte, barely old enough to grasp the complexities of public duty, had almost become the centerpiece in a strategic reinvention campaign. For the first time since this shadow war began, William broke. He sat down with Catherine and confided what he had learned. His voice, usually calm and measured, shook with a mixture of rage and fear. He admitted that he had underestimated the scope of Andrew's persistence, and the realization crushed him. Catherine, fierce and resolute in moments of threat, responded with swift clarity. She contacted the Palace Education Committee directly, insisting on an immediate freeze on all personnel changes connected to Charlotte's educational team. The move wasn't just precautionary, it was defensive. They had nearly walked into a trap disguised as protocol. When William confronted the palace officials responsible for vetting educational staff, He demanded names, timelines, and a detailed breakdown of who had pushed this appointment forward. What he received was a jumbled mix of administrative oversight and vague references to legacy-linked resources. But the message was clear. The system had already been infiltrated, and Andrew's reach had extended farther than anyone anticipated. Had it not been for Catherine's intervention, the tutor would have been placed within weeks. The threat has grown too close. But what William doesn't know is that Andrew isn't acting alone, and his next move will send shockwaves through royal protocol. Andrew's plan had help, and not just from passive supporters. As William presses further, he finds names he never expected to see involved. Trusted figures, family members, and one particularly stunning betrayal from someone close to Charlotte herself. With the shock of the tutor revelation still hanging over him like a thundercloud, William moved fast, determined to tear through the layers of secrecy that had so cleverly disguised Andrew's growing influence. But what he began uncovering was not a lone figure orchestrating in isolation. It was a quiet but coordinated cluster of sympathizers. A circle of enablers hiding behind roles of trust and tradition. The first crack appeared when a private royal aide disclosed that Andrew had recently met unofficially with one of Charlotte's godparents. The meeting, held under the pretext of discussing youth guidance initiatives, was neither sanctioned nor reported to the inner royal circle. When questioned, the godparent downplayed the event as a casual chat, but the timing and secrecy suggested otherwise. William's suspicions deepened. The betrayal was no longer hypothetical, it was happening. But nothing could have prepared him for what came next. A long-time royal nanny who had been in Charlotte's life since infancy approached Catherine in confidence. Tearfully, she revealed that months ago she'd been approached by a discreet intermediary, someone loosely tied to Andrew's estate, urging her to introduce alternate views during lessons. The suggestion was subtle, speak of history not from the lens of duty and honor, but from skepticism and autonomy. Shape Charlotte to question, plant quiet seeds of ideological division. The nanny refused, but the request had weighed heavily on her conscience. Now she feared remaining silent would mean complicity. Shaken and furious, William demanded every form of correspondence over the last 6 months be reviewed. It was during this frantic audit that he intercepted something truly unsettling: letters passed through ceremonial gift exchanges and wrapped in formal tradition, but laced with coded language known only to a select few royals. Phrases such as "the lineage must breathe" and "she is the window through which redemption enters" sent a chill through William's spine. He knew then this was not a passing manipulation attempt. It was a campaign. What disturbed him further was the silence from Queen Camilla. She had been made aware of the ongoing issues, yet said nothing, neither publicly nor privately. Her neutrality raised questions. Was she strategically avoiding involvement, or was her silence a form of quiet approval? Tensions in private corridors ran high, with every move now seen through the lens of suspicion. The name of Princess Beatrice surfaced next, linked via administrative paperwork to a former aide involved in scheduling Charlotte's event attendance. Though ultimately proven to be a bureaucratic fluke, the mere appearance of her name added to the growing storm of confusion and paranoia. The emotional toll was beginning to show. William, once resolute and composed, was becoming withdrawn. The weight of leadership had never felt heavier, and now, the one thing he was sworn to protect, his daughter, was being surrounded by shadows from within. He no longer questioned if there was a breach. He feared it had already happened. Every day brought new names, new doubts, new betrayals. His world, so carefully controlled, was unraveling. What William finds next doesn't just involve trust, it involves legacy. A sealed document hidden in Andrew's private collection threatens to destabilize everything. Buried beneath years of silence and sealed behind a private cabinet in Andrew's former office is a file labeled simply Windsor Continuity. When William finally lays eyes on it, he realizes the plan had been in motion far longer than anyone feared. The discovery was never supposed to happen. The file, long protected by layers of protocol and veiled under the pretense of historical correspondence, was unearthed only because a junior aide, shaken by recent events and breaking palace procedure, decided to act. The document, hidden in a polished wooden cabinet, was not filed with official archives, nor mentioned in internal catalogues. It was deliberately concealed. When the aide placed it into William's hands, she spoke only one sentence: "You need to see what he wrote about your daughter." What William found inside stopped him cold. It wasn't just correspondence. It was a manifesto. The file's contents were methodical, unnervingly clinical. Pages of diagrams detailed projected public perception arcs, strategy blueprints titled Pathway to Influence, and a timeline spanning over a decade, each phase intricately linked to Charlotte. At first glance, it resembled a political campaign. But with every word William read, he understood. This wasn't about a return to royal service. This was about shaping legacy from the shadows. Andrew's notes referred to Charlotte as a modernizing pillar, a bridge between discontent and tradition, and most disturbingly, the vessel through which reform may flow without confrontation. It was manipulation masked as mentorship. But the most disturbing element wasn't the planning, it was the forgery. Tucked into a red folder within the file was star tements written in a child's hand, Charlotte's handwriting. Only they weren't hers, not entirely. They were early drafts of public remarks she had practiced months ago. But these versions were altered. The phrasing had been adjusted, nudged in ways that subtly reframed her tone. Instead of phrases like honoring tradition, the wording shifted toward reimagining responsibility. Sentiments that, had they gone unnoticed, could have publicly distanced her from the institution's core values. William was speechless. Someone had copied her handwriting, lifted it from her private practice papers, and used it to test messaging on a child too young to understand its weight. He didn't wait for protocol. Clutching the file in his hands, he marched directly to Andrew's private residence, bypassing security and staff. No guards, no advisors, just fury. The confrontation was swift and volatile. William demanded answers, waving the pages in front of Andrew like evidence in a courtroom. But Andrew, cold and composed, offered no remorse. He called it a harmless vision, a future-proofing exercise, a legacy safeguard. He claimed it wasn't action, just theory. But William saw it for what it was. The intent was clear, the damage nearly irreversible. William left that room with a vow never to let Charlotte's future be written by anyone but her. But even as he prepared to strike back and sever every channel Andrew had used to manipulate the system, a new challenge blindsided him. A royal petition, signed and submitted by Andrew himself, was now circulating through the inner court. A request so calculated, so public, that even William's fury would have to pause, because this time, Andrew wasn't hiding behind shadows. Yet before William can act, the tide shifts again. Andrew takes the offensive, issuing a royal request that stuns the inner court. In a move that no one predicted, Andrew Petty shuns the Royal Advisory Council to allow him ceremonial mentorship over Charlotte in a new heritage initiative. It's public, calculated, and forces William into the spotlight. The proposal landed like a lightning bolt across the quiet halls of royal administration. Submitted in official language, wrapped in tradition, and presented as a harmless proposal for youth engagement, Andrew's request to serve as a heritage guide, under the guise of a cultural mentorship initiative, blindsided the entire council. At its surface, the request spoke of values, of reconnecting generations, of preserving royal identity. But behind the carefully chosen words was the same man who had orchestrated influence from the shadows, and now he was stepping into the light, with Charlotte as the centerpiece. The audacity wasn't just in the proposal, it was in the timing. Days after William's confrontation, days after the exposure of the Windsor continuity file, Andrew had preempted retaliation with a public maneuver designed to corner the palace. William's team scrambled. The advisory council was scheduled to review the petition in less than 72 hours, and the optics were perilous. On paper, it was framed as service, but beneath that lay a cruel manipulation of legacy. It wasn't about Charlotte's benefit, it was about Andrew's re-entry, a symbolic return through the one royal whose voice was still considered untouched, whose image remained unblemished. William knew what this meant. If the council accepted, it would create a precedent, and Andrew would no longer need secrecy. He'd be back under royal sanction. The nightmare escalated when the proposal was leaked to the press. A senior palace official, sympathetic to Andrew or perhaps coerced, handed it off to a tabloid known for framing monarchy through chaos. Within hours, headlines exploded. Andrew's redemption, royal uncle to guide Charlotte. Speculation turned to frenzy. Talk shows erupted. Social media turned hostile. William and Catherine were accused of withholding family ties, of denying tradition. The pressure wasn't silent, it was deafening. Behind the scenes, Catherine acted swiftly. She requested a quiet meeting with Princess Anne, one of the few royals left untouched by the storm. Anne, a pillar of dignity and rules, understood immediately. If the council didn't reject the petition on grounds of safety or precedent, perhaps there was another way, an older clause, buried deep in royal governance, that allowed the parents of a minor royal to veto ceremonial influence until the age of majority. It was obscure, rarely invoked, and would be seen as aggressive. But at this point, caution had become a luxury. Meanwhile, William buckled. In one of the most emotional moments yet, he found himself alone with Charlotte, as she casually asked why people were saying Uncle Andrew wants to help her. His voice caught in his throat. He knelt, unsure what to say, overwhelmed by the fragility of it all. How could he explain manipulation to a child whose world had always been shielded by love? His silence was an answer in itself. And still, King Charles hesitated. As the reigning monarch, he had the power to reject the proposal unilaterally, yet he lingered torn between salvaging family peace and preserving his granddaughter's independence. William felt the clock ticking louder. Time was running out, and Andrew had already forced their hand. As pressure mounts and tempers flare, it's not a legal clause that saves the day, it's Charlotte herself who makes the boldest move of all. At just 9 years old, Princess Charlotte takes a step no one anticipated. With grace and quiet defiance, she writes a personal letter to the council asking for her father's continued protection and rejecting outside guidance. While the adults argued behind palace doors and the media spun speculation into chaos, Charlotte remained curiously silent, observant, still, but not unaware. She had heard the whispers, seen the news clippings folded and hurriedly discarded, and though no one had intended for her to bear the weight of this scandal, she had felt it anyway. Her world, once so orderly and full of soft guidance, had shifted. There were too many questions, too many unfamiliar faces, and through it all, one truth began to crystallize in her young mind. If her voice wasn't being heard, perhaps it was time to use it. Alone in her room, without instruction or influence, Charlotte took a pen and began to write. Her words weren't crafted for politics or optics, they were pure, honest. A simple plea for safety, for space, for the comfort of being led by those she loved and trusted. She didn't name Andrew. She didn't need to. The message was unmistakable. When Catherine found the letter days later, tucked inside a notebook beneath Charlotte's bed, she read it in stunned silence. Line after line reflected a maturity beyond Charlotte's years, a voice that carried clarity, strength, and gentle defiance. Catherine's hands trembled as she read the final sentence. "Please let Papa keep being the one who shows me the world." There were no palace signatures, no formality, just truth. Catherine made a decision that broke every traditional rule. She submitted the letter to the council without hesitation. What followed stunned even the most hardened royals. The council, already under pressure and searching for a moral anchor, chose to read Charlotte's letter aloud during deliberation. As the words echoed through the chamber, the mood shifted. The gravity of it all finally settled in. This wasn't a game. This wasn't a political redemption story. This was a child, clear-eyed and unshakable, asking for freedom from intrusion. Her letter became the turning point, not just in the debate, but in the tone of the monarchy's future. It was raw, and it was real. After the reading, William stood before the council, not as a prince, but as a father. His voice, full of gratitude and emotion, cracked as he publicly thanked his daughter for her courage. It was a rare moment of vulnerability within an institution that so often hid behind ceremony. There were no legal loopholes needed, no backdoor strategies. Charlotte had ended the debate with a few heartfelt lines. Andrew, visibly seething, left the chambers in silence, his petition effectively shattered. His supporters faded into obscurity. The fallout was swift. Within days, palace aides began dismantling the unauthorized educational programs Andrew had covertly backed. Every channel, every thread, was cut. The storm begins to pass, but the damage done has changed the House of Windsor forever. William must now face what remains. With Andrew. Plan exposed and blocked, the palace turns inward to repair what was broken. But behind closed doors, scars remain and trust is now a rare commodity. William faces the bitter truth. Betrayal came far too close to home. The aftermath of Charlotte's letter was swift, decisive and deeply unsettling. While the public celebrated the clarity of her voice and the dignity of her defiance, inside the palace, a reckoning had begun. An internal investigation was launched under the guise of protocol, but its true purpose was simple: to identify every thread that had helped Andrew weave his deception. The findings were damning. Several staff members, long considered loyal, were quietly removed. Some had knowingly assisted Andrew's efforts. Others had turned a blind eye. It wasn't just complicity. It was corrosion from within. And William, forced to acknowledge how close danger had crept to his own daughter, found himself haunted by guilt that would not lift. Behind the scenes, King Charles summoned Andrew for a private meeting. No advisors, no aides. The conversation, though never officially recorded, quickly became the subject of tense whispers across royal circles. Charles, torn between the legacy of his reign and the brotherhood of blood, issued a reprimand sharp, but shielded from public view. There was no statement, no televised address, just silence, and that silence bred resentment. William, though respectful of his father's decision, understood what it meant. No real consequences, only containment. It was a choice that kept the family from fracturing publicly, but one that deepened fractures privately. The wound was far from closed. In response, William and Catherine took full control of Charlotte's environment. Every decision, whether about tutors, public appearances, or correspondence, was restructured under their authority. The goal was no longer just protection, it was prevention. There would be no more loopholes, no more miscommunications, nothing left to chance. And yet, the emotional toll remained. In a rare and deeply personal moment, William sat with Charlotte and offered what no royal ever gives easily: an apology. He told her he was sorry for hesitating, for doubting himself, for letting others get too close. She smiled, young and forgiving, but William knew the lesson had been carved into both their hearts forever. Meanwhile, the palace's communications team scrambled to recast the chaos into a palatable narrative. They branded it a unity-focused initiative, a time of reflection, healing, and modernizing resilience. Public statements emphasized togetherness. Photographs were staged with smiles, but behind the walls of Buckingham, nothing felt unified. Queen Camilla remained curiously distant. Her refusal to speak out during the height of the scandal had not gone unnoticed. The silence she maintained, whether strategic or indifferent, had planted seeds of doubt that would take root for years. The House of Windsor had survived the firestorm, but the ground beneath it had shifted. William had safeguarded Charlotte, but not without cost. And just as he began to breathe again, thinking the danger had finally passed, a new envelope arrived, unsigned, unsealed, and slid beneath his private chamber door. But just as the family begins to settle, a new message arrives, one that suggests Andrew's game may not be over after all. A cryptic envelope arrives at Kensington Palace, unsigned but unmistakable in tone. "She will rise above you all." Inside it, a photograph from years ago, Charlotte, with Andrew in the background. William knows this isn't the end, it's only the beginning. The note arrived without warning, no seal, no return address, and no accompanying explanation. Just a single, stark message scrawled across ivory paper in bold black. K. Inc. She will rise above you all. At first glance, it could have been dismissed as a cruel prank, the byproduct of public obsession. But what lay beneath that folded slip sent a wave of ice through William's veins. A photograph, one he didn't recall ever being taken, captured Charlotte as a toddler, smiling innocently at a family event. But it wasn't her expression that made his breath hitch. It was the shadowy presence just behind her, blurred but unmistakable, Prince Andrew. unsmiling, observing, framed perfectly as if deliberately staged. It was an image of innocence pierced by a watchful ambition, and its timing was no accident. William stood in silence, the weight of the photo heavier than any file or petition that had come before. It wasn't the message itself that unsettled him, it was the implication. Someone was still watching, still reaching, still believing the story wasn't finished. Whether the sender was Andrew or someone acting on his behalf remained unclear, but the intent rang loud and clear. The door was never fully closed. This wasn't over. And the threat, veiled and psychological, was now personal in a way that cut deeper than public scandal or council debates. It was a reminder that no matter how carefully they guarded Charlotte's path, the past still lurked in the shadows. That night, William locked the photograph away, not out of fear, but out of resolve. The next morning, security protocols across Charlotte's schooling and engagements were tightened. Surveillance rotations were reviewed, access lists rewritten. Catherine, ever composed, did not flinch, but behind her calm, she too began to make silent changes. Tutors were revisited, routes recalculated, and from that moment on, nothing was assumed to be safe simply because it was royal. The message had changed everything, but in the quiet that followed, something powerful took root. William and Catherine made a vow not of protection alone, but of empowerment. They would not let Charlotte be shaped by fear, by manipulation, or by the ghosts of a fractured legacy. She would not be anyone's pawn, savior, or symbol. She would lead on her terms, and only when she chose. And as the weeks passed and the scandal faded into silence, Charlotte's stride seemed to grow stronger. Her voice, once gently guided, now carried tones of quiet confidence. Not the arrogance of royalty, but the awareness of someone who had seen danger brush against her life, and refused to shrink from it. In the House of Windsor, loyalty is often tested, but when the next generation is threatened, even a prince must become a shield. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.